it's a case of the palace watching and waiting to see what they do. And they will be watching, and they will be watching.
They keep their titles, they keep their place in the line of succession. That means Prince Harry and Archie both...
I think any parents, I think, will probably sort of know what this feeling feels like.
Very special. The most amazing experience I could ever possibly imagine how any woman does.
Announces at this hospital in Santa Barbara near the couple's California home. Far away from Windsor Castle, where
Harry's pulled a bit of a flanker. The reality is there's nothing wrong with him calling his daughter and...
His relationship with the royal family, because Prince Harry has said that he doesn't feel safe when coming to the UK. He doesn't feel safe enough.
Firmly stand up for what we believe, and we will do everything that we can to play our part in building a better world.
Appalling. And the irony of this, there's hypocrisy in it, because Harry, in his book Spare, writes about the royal...
But it's a reform play by William. I think he just wants to keep it a very tight monarchy, but also he wants to reward the people.
I mean, he's got a point, isn't he? They got 20 million, apparently, for 12 hours or 12 shows of half an hour each.
Supposed to be really sought after, hard to get, scarce product. But
you know, there hasn't been many royal books like this, although, Rob, you've written many fantastic books. I'm not going to compare them. But this is from the mouth.
Who are also signed to the Harry Walker Agency. And, by the way, who the Sussexes really
independent. They have said that they still want to support the Queen and work in the Queen's name where necessary.
Can the naming of Lily be seen as an olive branch of sorts?
Whether it's an olive branch.
The king has not seen his grandchildren for many, many years. And the relationship with Prince Harry and his father...
The book landed before its official publication date because it got published in Spain and everyone dashed off to get their copy.
Buckingham Palace didn't scream. They didn't leak emotional interviews. They didn't rush to cameras with trembling voices and dramatic accusations. No, they did something far more dangerous. They stayed silent while Prince Harry and Meghan Markle allegedly walked straight into the most sophisticated royal trap anyone has seen in decades. And that is the part people are only beginning to understand now. Because this was never just a family feud. This was never just about two royals wanting privacy. This was reportedly a cold institutional chess game where one side was playing for headlines while the other was playing for history itself. The moment Harry and Meghan boarded that freedom flight and positioned themselves as victims escaping a suffocating monarchy, the world applauded. They became global symbols overnight. Brave rebels. Modern royals, the couple who dared to challenge the crown. But what if Buckingham Palace already knew exactly how this would end? What if the palace understood something Harry and Meghan didn't? That the monarchy never fights emotional wars in public because it doesn't need to. The crown has survived scandals, abdications, betrayals, affairs, leaks, wars, and collapses of empires. It doesn't panic, it waits. And while the Sussexes were busy building podcasts, documentaries, interviews, memoirs, and billion-dollar deals in Montecito, the palace reportedly turned its attention somewhere far more powerful than public opinion. The rule books. Ancient rules. Ruthless rules. Rules written long before Meghan Markle was even born. And according to explosive reports now circulating around royal insiders, those rules may have quietly sealed the future of Archie and Lilibet long before anyone realized what was happening. The terrifying part? It allegedly started over 100 years ago. Back in 1917, King George V made a decision that looked boring on paper but became one of the most powerful defensive mechanisms the monarchy ever created. The letters patent. Dry legal language hiding razor-sharp consequences. George V had watched royal families across Europe collapse like dominoes. Dynasties were crumbling. Monarchies were becoming bloated, chaotic, unstable. Too many princes. Too many claims. Too many opportunists circling power. So he slimmed the monarchy down with brutal precision. And those rules allegedly became the invisible wall Harry and Meghan never realized they were running into. Because inside the monarchy, fame means nothing. Netflix deals mean nothing. Podcasts mean nothing. Public sympathy means nothing. Bloodlines, documentation, protocol, and institutional legitimacy are the only currencies that matter. That's the game. That has always been the game. And Buckingham Palace reportedly never stopped playing it.
By letters patent on the 30th of November, 1917. a decree that would redefine who.
The rules were chillingly simple. To fully exist within the royal structure, legitimacy had to be documented, recognized, institutionalized, not emotionally argued, not socially defended, documented, recognized, verified. That's why insiders now believe the palace allegedly never viewed Harry and Meghan as dangerous because of interviews or accusations. The real concern was something much bigger. A rival royal brand operating outside palace control while still cashing in on royal status. That was reportedly the nightmare scenario. And according to whispers now spilling out from behind palace walls, the institution quietly decided it would never allow that rival court to become permanent. So while Harry and Meghan were telling the world their truth, the palace was reportedly checking every technicality, every protocol, every legal framework that could eventually determine whether Archie and Lilibet would truly remain inside the royal structure at all. And once you start looking closely, the timeline becomes deeply unsettling, because then came Archie's birth certificate, and suddenly people noticed something that felt off, strange, wrong. Meghan's legal name reportedly vanished from the document, gone, replaced entirely by a royal title, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. At first glance, it looked insignificant, bureaucratic, technical, but royal watchers immediately realized something disturbing. Princess Diana kept her name on official records. Catherine Middleton kept hers too. So why was Meghan different? Why was the actual woman seemingly erased from the birth document and replaced with an institutional title instead? The palace gave no explanation, no clarification, just silence. And Buckingham Palace silence is never empty. That silence is where speculation grows. According to royal insiders, this allegedly wasn't random at all. It was reportedly a deliberate adjustment ordered quietly behind the scenes. A tiny bureaucratic detail with massive long-term implications. Because if titles are ever removed, what remains? Suddenly the document stops being about a person and starts being about a title that may no longer exist one day. And that changes everything.
As Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, and chose her job as Princess of the...
That moment became the first major crack people noticed publicly. But according to insiders, inside palace corridors, the alarms were already ringing loudly. Because in a monarchy obsessed with precedent, outliers are dangerous, deviations matter. And Archie's birth reportedly contained several of them. The palace allegedly noticed every single one. Then came the next layer of controversy, the secrecy around the birth itself. For centuries, royal births followed carefully controlled procedures designed for one reason only: legitimacy. Witnesses, officials, approved physicians, formal announcements, institutional verification. But Harry and Meghan reportedly bypassed almost the entire traditional structure. No classic easel announcement outside Buckingham Palace, no visible institutional choreography, no familiar royal process. And into that vacuum exploded rumors the palace reportedly made absolutely no effort to stop. That silence again. Always the silence. Surrogacy speculation spread online like wildfire. Questions multiplied. Timelines were dissected obsessively. The internet became consumed with theories. Yet, Buckingham Palace, an institution capable of crushing stories within hours when necessary, simply watched. They did not aggressively defend the Sussexes. They did not publicly shut rumors down. According to some insiders, that silence itself allegedly became the strategy, because by refusing to fully verify, they allegedly allowed uncertainty to become permanent background noise surrounding Archie's legitimacy narrative. Not officially challenged, but never aggressively protected either. A gray zone, and gray zones inside royal structures are incredibly dangerous.
They're placed in the line of succession. That means Prince Harry and Archie both remain in line to the throne.
That was reportedly the moment palace insiders realized the monarchy might not need open confrontation at all. They didn't need dramatic removals or public humiliation. They could simply allow technicalities, questions, and protocol gaps to slowly hollow out the Sussex position over time. Quietly, patiently, methodically. And the terrifying part is Harry and Meghan allegedly never saw the machinery moving around them. Because while they were fighting emotionally, the institution was fighting structurally. One side was chasing headlines, the other was shaping generations. And by the time the Sussexes realized how much power lives inside those dusty ancient royal systems, it may already have been too late. And then came the moment that reportedly changed everything forever. Because if the controversy surrounding Archie's birth created whispers, the arrival of Lilibet allegedly turned those whispers into a full-blown institutional freeze. The reaction from Buckingham Palace was immediate, cold, and impossible to ignore. There was no roaring celebration, no grand royal choreography, no emotional public embrace from the institution. Instead, there was silence so loud it practically echoed across the Atlantic. Hours passed before official acknowledgement came from the palace, and even then it felt restrained, distant, almost clinical. The world learned about the birth not through royal mechanisms, but through a California PR release. Think about how extraordinary that actually is. A child connected directly to the line of succession introduced to the public like a Hollywood celebrity baby instead of a royal heir. To many royal observers, that was the moment the palace allegedly signaled something terrifyingly clear without ever saying the words aloud. In the eyes of the institution, Lilibet was not being fully absorbed into the royal machine. She was being kept at arm's length. And then Harry and Meghan reportedly made what insiders describe as the catastrophic mistake that sent tensions behind palace walls into overdrive. They chose the name Lilibet, Queen Elizabeth II's most intimate childhood nickname, a name reserved for an incredibly tiny circle of people who truly belonged inside her emotional world. This wasn't just another royal tribute. This was personal territory, sacred territory. And according to reports, the Queen was allegedly furious because palace insiders claimed she was informed rather than genuinely consulted. That distinction mattered enormously because inside the monarchy, protocol is emotional language. To the outside world, it looked sentimental. To palace traditionalists, it allegedly looked like overreach. And once again, the palace publicly said almost nothing. But silence inside royal warfare is never neutral. It is strategic. Then Harry took the fight directly into the courts. And according to insiders, that may have been the biggest strategic mistake of all, because suddenly the emotional royal war became legal, formal, documented. Harry argued that his family deserved state-funded protection. He argued his children faced danger. He argued they should receive security equal to working royals. But the palace and British government allegedly saw the case differently. Their position remained brutally simple. Working royals receive institutional protection because they serve the institution. Harry and Meghan stepped away. Therefore, the structure no longer applied to them in the same way. Publicly, it looked like a battle about safety. But beneath the surface, royal insiders say it became something much bigger. Status, definition, institutional identity itself. Because once the courts and government formally reinforced that Archie and Lilibet were not functioning members of the working monarchy, it allegedly created a devastating precedent. If they are not protected institutionally as working royals, then they cannot fully function institutionally as working royals either. Suddenly, the architecture supporting royal relevance began quietly disappearing beneath them piece by piece. No permanent royal residence, no active royal duties, no protected institutional role. The titles technically remained, but according to reports, the practical substance behind them had already begun evaporating. At the exact same time, the commercial empire Harry and Meghan sacrificed everything to build reportedly began showing serious cracks. The Spotify collapse sent shockwaves through the entire Sussex brand operation. The word grifters exploded globally because it punctured the carefully curated image of unstoppable post-royal success. Then the Netflix momentum reportedly slowed. The Oprah interview created nuclear-level attention initially, but attention built entirely on revelations and grievances has a shelf life. That's the brutal reality the palace allegedly understood from the beginning. Meanwhile, the so-called men in gray suits reportedly continued operating in the background with terrifying patience. No dramatic attacks, no emotional counter-interviews, just quiet institutional severance. Frogmore Cottage gone. UK foothold weakened. Functional royal access reduced. The monarchy allegedly understood something Harry emotionally never did. Being a spare inside the institution is painful, but being entirely outside it may ultimately become even harder for his children, because a spare still belongs to the story. An exile slowly disappears from it, and according to royal insiders, that is exactly what the palace has allegedly been engineering from the beginning. Not dramatic removal, something colder, slow historical fading. Archie and Lilibet growing up as royal footnotes instead of institutional pillars, not because anyone publicly banished them, but because every structural pathway leading back towards central royal relevance was quietly narrowed over time until almost none remain. And that is what makes this entire saga feel so unsettling. Buckingham Palace reportedly never needed explosive retaliation. They never needed emotional revenge. They simply held the line while Harry and Meghan unknowingly spent down the very thing keeping their global fascination alive: proximity to the crown itself. Every interview, every grievance, every accusation allegedly strengthened the palace's long-term justification for separation. The monarchy plays generational games. Celebrities play quarterly cycles. Influencers chase engagement. But the crown thinks in 50-year timelines. That is reportedly the lesson Harry and Meghan realized far too late. The palace was never fighting the next headline. It was shaping the next century. And now 2 children who never chose any of this reportedly stand at the center of a royal identity crisis that may define the rest of their lives. One day, Archie and Lilibet may grow up and ask the question hanging silently over this entire story. Was freedom worth becoming outsiders to the history they were born into? And by then, according to some insiders, Buckingham Palace may already have its answer written permanently into the royal record.